You want to say that again? If you're going to give a snappy answer, you're what?
Good night.
All right. For the record, your full name.
Joseph Eldon Toomey.
Very good. Okay. Did you have any nicknames as a kid?
Fish.
Fish?
I hated that.
Where were you born?
Salt Lake City, Utah.
And your mother's name?
Rosa Alice Cornwall.
Your father's name? Otto?
I'm thinking,
Otto?
huh?
Was it Otto?
Otto Norman Toomey.
There you go. Do you remember your birthday?
July 28, 1923.
Okay. What is your first memory? The first memory you can
I
think
was in
of.
primary, and the primary teacher made us get a record of our ancestors, my immediate ancestors. And my ancestors came from Denver, Colorado.
Well, this is appropriate then. Your first
they
memory is
came-
ancestors.
They came through Oklahoma, and they didn't stay long. But they originally came from Kentucky. So, I'm a hillbilly.
Okay, now reverse that last question. Who is the oldest relative that you remember? And do you remember anything specific about them? Do you have anything that you remember about them?
Well, my mother,
Your mother is the oldest relative that you remember? And
Yeah.
what is something specific that you remember about her?
she was the second wife in my family. And she disrupted the marriage, and the oldest wife got mad, left home. My oldest sister left home, and she went to Las Vegas, Nevada.
The oldest wife?
So she was the youngest.
Oh, the youngest wife.
I remember that she would go swimming in the canal nearby, and with nothing on, and I went and watched.
Okay, so you talked a little bit about where your family came from, like Oklahoma and Kentucky. But where did your ancestors originate from?
My grandmother, I met her in Bountiful, Utah.
No, your ancestors, not. Oh, your grandmother was from Orem, Utah.
No, she was from Bountiful, Utah, and she came from that small town near
In another place in Utah.
yeah.
What about like farther back ancestors from Ireland, from
I met
Scotland,
my
from
grandmother, and she was from Switzerland.
Switzerland? Okay.
So And my primary teacher told me to get my life story from my grandparents, and so I wrote them a letter. He answered it, and my older sister, Helen, said it was too valuable for a little runny-nosed kid, and she stole it.
So kind of her.
So all I got left was a copy of it.
Of your own letter.
No, my grand.
Oh, of your grandpa's letter that he responded to you. Got it. How did your parents meet? Do you remember?
No, but I know what they were. After they met, they reminded each other.
All the time?
It seems that way.
So,
And they reminded me.
how old were you when your mother died?
I was around 10.
And how did she die?
The two wives walked to church, and the car came along, and she went to the right, and my stepmother went to the left, and there was a new driver, and he hit her and killed her.
Huh. So, do you remember any other stories about your mother or your father?
My mother would take me to the Capitol and look at all the exhibits, and she would take me to Memory Grove, and I memorized the poem there in Memory Grove. And there shall come a day in spring when death and winter loose their chill white hold quite suddenly. A day of sunlit air when winged birds return and earth her gentle bosoms bare, that new thirsty life may nurture there. On such a day I shall return to you, not dead, not even gone, and we will talk of every lovely thing when I return in spring.
Incredible memory. Incredible memory for that poem.
That was before she died. I was about 5 or 6.
Wow. So what kinds of things do you remember about your father?
He was a brilliant man.
Like yourself?
He was a carpenter, and he built many buildings in Salt Lake City, and they made him the Chartres construction company, made him a foreman, and then they made him a superintendent. And my father put me with the best man he had in the business we were working at Hillfield Air Force Base.
Hill Air Force Base?
This man was very good, but he would work fast and hard, and then he would go to sleep. And so the owner came around and saw he was asleep and fired him. And so my father and his carpenters called the struck, get him back to work because he was so good. So that was my first union strike.
That was your first union strike.
Right. And he was a union organizer.
Your dad or this man that slept
And
on the
my
job?
dad.
Your dad.
My dad was a union organizer. And so he got in fist fights with many of the people
So
around
he
him.
fought with his hands and not with his words?
Right.
He fought with his hands and not with his words?
I don't know what he would do. But anyway, he was a fighting Irishman.
Fighting Irishman, huh? You doing okay?
That's okay.
Do you need some water?
That's fine.
You're all right? Are you getting pretty tired, or do you think you can answer a few more
That's
questions?
okay.
You're okay? Okay. All right.
But he drank like a fish,
Your father drank like a fish?
and he made me go get his beer and his wine.
And at that time, you could go as a child to get your parents' alcohol?
Yeah, and I was ashamed of it, and I've never drunk since.
Because he invited you to join him?
No, it's just that I didn't want to be an alcoholic
Like your dad?
like my dad. But I got the patriarchal blessing that said I could do it. And so I've stayed away from alcohol, beer, and wine all these years.
Awesome. Okay. Switch gears just a little bit. Can you tell me all of the names of your immediate siblings, and like in order, the oldest sibling to the youngest, and then if you remember any step siblings?
No, I can't.
You can't remember all of your
Can't
siblings? Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I know I had an uncle in northern Utah.
No, your siblings, your brothers and sisters. Do you remember the names of your brothers
Oh,
and sisters?
yes. My oldest brother was Jesse. And he went in the army and he couldn't take it. And he died young. And my oldest sister was Helen. And she raised me because my mother worked in Salt Lake
Your
as a
stepmother
maid.
worked in Salt Lake?
As a maid.
Uh-huh.
And left my raising to my sister. And my second sister went to BYU.
What was your next sister's name after Helen?
Eleanor,
Eleanor?
yeah,
Okay.
my oldest sister in the other family was Berdine,
Berdine?
and Norma.
Norma.
They say Norma was a wild one.
Norma was the wild one.
She would go swimming.
Oh, she's the one who went swimming in the canal with nothing on.
I
Got it. So are those all of your
thought that
siblings?
was great fun.
Of course you would. So those were all of your siblings?
This Donald,
Oh, and Donald.
He
And
was
he's
the-
younger
he
than
was
you, right?
younger than me.
And he was the youngest?
He was the youngest.
All right. Next, what was your childhood home like?
We slept 5 in a bed. And I was on the rights outside. I was the last one in.
So it was a very small home with not very many bed, like no one had their own bed.
No, they all had one bed. And they kicked me out. The only thing is, when I left, I took the covers with me. So they kicked me out of the room. And I slept under the porch.
Okay.
I used to make radios, and I'd hang it in the rafters. And I'd go to sleep. In the morning, I'd wake up strangling myself in the cord
Of your radio?
of my radio. I remember I listened to the coronation of George V.
George the Fifth, huh? That was a long time ago.
It was a long
So what was your favorite thing to do as a child? Build
build
radios?
radio.
Build radios?
Yes.
Did you have any other favorite toys or games that you liked to play?
I don't remember.
Okay. What about when you were a kid? You probably didn't have a television set in your house, did you?
This is before
TV.
television.
Did you ever go on any family vacations as a family?
Yes, then see my aunt and uncle in Ogden. And so I would go there and we'd ride their horses. And my horse was an old nag and had a big spine that was that high. And I'd go up and stay up, and they'd come down, and the horse would go up. So we met in the middle.
I'm sure that was painful.
That was painful. It reminded me not to like horses.
So basically any family vacations that you went on were to visit family.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any really good close childhood friends that you remember?
Yes. My friends was Leonard and Eugene. And they were my closest friends. And they would play tricks on me because I was blind. And they would move one step back in the basket. And I couldn't find them because they were one step back.
Too far behind.
And
So at what age did you finally get your glasses so that you could see? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but my brother, no, my my teacher, math teacher, took me to Salt Lake to get some glasses. And then I could see, and there was a maze that leaves had veins, and the sidewalk had cracks. And it was amazing to me.
So it wasn't your father or stepmother who took you to get glasses, it was a math teacher from school.
Right. And that was in high school. So I didn't have glasses until high school.
Until high school, wow. How did you manage to get through
My
elementary
teacher
school?
sat me on the front row, and she had a ruler. And I didn't give the right answer. She'd hit my hands with the ruler. Needless to say, I memorized quickly
You memorized quickly.
because I didn't want to get hit by my teacher's ruler. But this was a blessing.
The learning to memorize quickly was a blessing because it helped you later on.
Helped me later on, yes. And she was my English teacher, Old Lady Forbush. And I didn't have to learn English ever more because she made me learn it.
So quickly.
But she was mean.
Are there any especially valuable lessons that you feel that you learned from either your parents or your grandparents?
No, but I learned from a friend of mine. I learned that I was not to walk away during an argument because I got in an argument with him and I walked away. And the next thing I knew, I was hit with a big clod of dirt right in my back. I remember it well. But that was okay. Asked my sister, how come my friends told me that I was a mean, rotten little kid. And she said, because you are a mean, rotten little kid. And she said, I think it would be wonderful if you could walk in front of a bus and they could
This is what your sister said? She said she wished you could walk in front of a bus
Yes,
because you were a mean, rotten kid.
yes.
So you just loved being at home as a child?
No,
Or not?
I walked in front of the truck and all that happened was the truck driver saw and yelled at me.
And your sister was disappointed. That's
I was
that's
still a
awful.
rotten little kid.
So earlier you mentioned that you had a radio under the porch of your house, and you listened to
Made
the.
it.
You made a radio, and you had it under the porch of your house, and you listened to the coronation of George
George
the
the
Third or George the Fifth. Are there any other historical events that you remember when you were young, like a child,
It was a
high school or younger?
junkyard about a mile away. And we could go there and take, steal the parts from the junkyard. So I made a wagon. And I just had a fun time with that junkyard.
That was your favorite place to go? Was that just go to steal parts from the junkyard?
Yeah,
So are there any other historical events that you remember?
Like
I remember
presidents.
Like any presidents or major events?
when my mother took me out to eat. We went to an all-you-can-eat for $1.
And that was something that you did with your mother?
And I thought that was heaven.
To go out to eat?
Eat for $1, all I could eat.
That is pretty amazing. That'll get you a McBurger from McDonald's.
I don't remember. All I remember is that I ate and ate and ate.
So, technology has sure changed a lot since you were a kid.
Yeah,
When you were a kid, there was no TV.
well, my typing teacher
You had
was
typewriters.
Mr. Bundle, and he got in a fight with some of the kids, and they swung and hit him, and he swung and missed, and he hit the team, the lockers, and it broke the fist in his hand.
Of your typewriting teacher? It broke your typewriting teacher's fist?
Yes, and he was a musician. He was a concert musician, but he never played after that.
So you had typewriters, but obviously no computers when you were a kid.
Oh no,
Did you have a telephone in your home?
no.
Did your parents own a vehicle? Or
Yes, and they was always working on it.
they were always working on it because it was always
Okay.
broken?
There was an Essex, and we called it an assay.
It was called an Essex, but
It
you
was-
always called it an Essex?
It was named Essex,
Named Essex.
and we called it an assay. And I had to go herd a cow along the road, and the kids there would throw rocks at me because the cow would always try to eat the grass on the other side of the fence.
Did your family go to church when you were a child?
Yes,
Yeah.
my father was excommunicated.
He was excommunicated when you were a child?
Yes,
Was he ever rebaptized?
I think he was excommunicated twice.
Oh, so he got baptized and then got excommunicated again?
Yes,
So I think you may have kind of already answered this question, but heroes or role models from your childhood. Am I safe in assuming that your math teacher who took you to get glasses, he was probably a role model or hero type for you?
role model was my mother,
Your mother?
and she taught me when upon life's billows you were a tempest tossed, when you were discouraged, thinking all is lost. God, your many blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done.
Okay. Moving on a little farther in life, what schools did you attend after graduating? What high school did you graduate from, and then where did you go to college?
I was in junior high with Union Junior High School, and then I went to Jordan High School, and one dad was waving a gun around, a loaded gun.
Your dad was waving around a loaded gun at school?
No, at home.
Oh.
And he laid it down, and I buried it. And he got mad. He kicked me out of the house.
Was your father, as a general rule, a kind man or a not so kind man to his family?
He was a brilliant man, but I don't think he was too kind.
So when he was drunk, he was not a kind man to.
When he got drunk, he was not so kind.
Okay.
But that was the typical Irish.
Didn't make it okay, but yes. Okay, so you graduated from Jordan High School, and then where did you go? Where did you attend?
Then I walked to Provo to BYU.
And is that where you got your dental degree?
No, then the war came along. And I was a coward and didn't want anybody to draft me, so I joined.
And that was right after high school?
Right after high school.
So while you were still in school, did you have any favorite subjects?
Yes, botany was my favorite subject.
Was that the easiest subject for you, or your hardest subject?
No, it's just my favorite.
It was just your favorite.
The guy we got to be favorite was that I went to my classroom and put my books down on my desk, and some snot-nosed little kid threw my books the doorway and sat down on my desk. And so we sat there and fought back and forth, and he became my best friend. His name was Quinn Astle.
Quinn Astle?
Yes, and he was from Wyoming.
And this was your best friend from biology? Or botany, I'm sorry.
And botany.
Okay. So once you were in high school and you had your glasses, what kind of grades did you get, and in your subjects?
I told my teacher that I was planning to go to college, and he sat me down and gave me 100 reasons why I would never make it.
Why you would never make it in college, huh? Yet your highest degree, completed degree, was a dental doctor, yes?
Well, that was high enough.
Yep, yes, it sure was. So did you have a favorite teacher in high school, and why was this teacher your favorite?
I guess my favorite was the math teacher.
The one who got you your glasses?
Yeah,
So while you were in high school, did you ever have a job? What was your first job that you ever had?
I worked in a place that made bricks, and so you haul bricks around with a heavy screw, heavy brick truck.
So So your first job was hauling bricks.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I went to get a job and, as a laborer, and they asked if anybody had ever worked in bricks. I says, I have. I didn't know a thing about
So you lied.
bricks, but I soon learned.
Did you have any other jobs before graduating from high school
Yes, I was a carpenter apprentice
with your dad?
with my dad, but he sent me with the best carpenter there. He was the one that would
The one that would
go
fall
to
asleep?
sleep, but he taught me everything I knew.
So then after high school, you went into the military and that was your next job?
Yes,
And what was your position in the military?
private.
Private? And what did you do? Walked around, training drills? You were a cook?
No,
You were a medicine? You were a
I
medicine?
was a
woman?
medic,
You were a medic.
and so I would read the doctor's books. All I read and read and read. And I read the doctor's books.
Is that what inspired you to ultimately become a dentist?
Well, they sent me to Shrivenham American University for about 3 months, and I followed the English teachers, English people's marriage, and I got indoctrinated in the English medicine, and I used it
Okay.
in preference to the American.
All right, we're going to switch gears just a little bit. When did you meet Marcia, and how long did you date each other before you got married?
I met her in oh, the name of that town, Nephi, Utah. And I was in Germany, and I was talking with Ezra Taft Benson, and he said that I had a reason for being on this earth. And then I went to Japan, and the teacher was Russell M. Nelson.
You were a teacher with Russell M. Nelson while you were still in the Army?
Yeah, no, I was, and I was a teacher in Germany
After the Army.
after the Army.
And then after you taught in Germany, then you went to Japan to teach.
No, I went to Japan, and that's where I met Ezra Taft Benson. Russell M. Nelson.
Okay.
And so I came back home and got a job in Nephi, Utah. And
And that's where you met Marcia.
that's where I met Marcia.
And how long did you date each other before you proposed?
It took me 9 dates before I even held her hand. We were walking up the mountain.
And how did you propose? Did you propose up on the mountain?
I can't remember.
You can't remember. Do you remember where you were married?
I was married in the temple in Ogden.
In the temple in Ogden. Okay.
The Idaho Falls Temple.
Wait a minute. Did you get married in Idaho Falls or did you get married in Ogden?
I got married in Idaho Falls.
You got married in
Temple.
Idaho Falls Temple.
But before that, I got married in my wife's church.
Oh, you guys were married civilly first in Ogden.
Right.
Okay. Was there a reason that you chose to be married civilly first?
Mercy. Ties were there in Montana,
Uh-huh.
and she wanted to get married with the bishop.
Okay.
Was her father, and she wanted to get married by her father. And then we got married in the Idaho Falls Temple.
Got it.
I remember it well because I went to get a recommend, and the bishop says, "Oh, you were previously married." And she says, "What? You never told me." I says, "Well, it was to you."
Got it. All right. So, do you remember all of the names of your children that you had together?
Rebecca, Ronald, Donald, Paul, Harold, Robert, and Jerry.
Awesome. Do
They're
you
all
remember
called-
anything
they're
about
all
the
named-
day?
They're all named Hey You.
They're all named Hey You. Got it. Do you remember anything about the day when your first child, or Rebecca, was born?
Yes, the doctor let me attend the birth of the child.
The doctor would not let you attend?
He would.
Oh, they would.
So I went and attended the birth. And the little girl had red hair. And so we took her and cleaned her up and made a little boy with black hair.
And they brought back a little boy with black hair?
Yes.
And you
And I
said,
says,
this is
"No
not my baby.
way, that's not mine. Get out of here.
Bring me my baby."
Bring me my baby." So I got the red-haired baby.
The next question I have is, you said your mother died when you were about 10 and she was hit by a car. Do you remember how your father died? And about how old you were?
I'm thinking,
Don't remember.
we buried him in the cemetery up at the Veterans Cemetery because he had been a soldier. He just didn't go overseas.
So he was buried in the military cemetery
He did was.
because he was a soldier, but he didn't serve overseas.
He didn't serve.
Got it. Have you ever been hospitalized or had any serious health problems?
No, but I was afraid that I might because I was a medic. that took care of the battalion. The battalion had 200% worth of venereal disease. I was afraid I was going to catch one.
Okay, but other than that, no serious medical history. You said, so what about famous people that you've met in your lifetime? You said you've met President Nelson and President Ezra Taft Benson.
What about what?
Famous people that you've met in your life. You've met President Nelson and President Ezra Taft Benson. Have you met any other famous people? Was it you that went to church with President Monson?
We had a teacher at Ohio State that would invite me to dinner. And he'd send his daughter to pick me up and bring me to his home. And he was the only one that I could talk with really easy because we both were bookworms.
And what was his name?
A-Ray Alpin.
Adri Alpin?
A-Ray.
A-Ray Alpin?
Yes. He turned out to be the president of the University of Utah.
There you go.
His daughter didn't have anything to do with me.
He just wanted to talk.
She'd beat the heck out of me.
All right. What, as an adult, what would you say that your hobbies or talents were?
I didn't have any.
Okay, I don't believe that. You were a very talented dentist.
I can't remember any.
Okay. What are some of the things in life that mattered the very, very most to you? Your family, your work, your education. What were the things that mattered the most to you?
I was a dentist, and I belonged to a dental society.
And that was one of the things that mattered most?
Yes.
Okay. What was one of the hardest choices you have ever had to make in your life?
When my mother died, I couldn't cry. I remembered that it was just impossible for me to go to the funeral, and I couldn't cry. And they buried her right by a big tree. That was the hardest.
That was the hardest choice you ever made?
Yeah.
Or would you say that that was a choice that you regretted the most?
I don't remember.
What is one of your best memories?
I had two friends. Leonard and anyway, I took my little brother out to Halloween, and we went to the school house, and I waxed all the lower windows. And next morning, when I went to school, Johnny Gammon Casco was cleaning the windows. And he says, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I says, I know you didn't. I believe you,
And that was one of your best memories.
It's one of my best memories.
All right, here's my last question for today. What advice would you give to your posterity? Do you have any advice that you would give to that you could give to your posterity?